Hello, my name is Marcin Salak, and I would like to share some thoughts with you about this new camera that I bought recently, Fujifilm GFX 100S. I've owned this camera for about 2 months maybe. I must say I've really enjoyed using it, and I used it in a variety of environments so far. I brought it on a holiday with me, so did some sort of personal photography, I guess, as well a few different sporting events that I shot with it. So I did a football match with it, an indoor squash competition, so it was kind of low lighting, as well a cycling competition that was outdoors, so a variety of lightings there. And I think for a camera that isn't targeting sports photographers and live action, fast paced photographers, this camera did really well in those environments, and provided a different sort of look to images that you might be used to from your Nikon and Canon and Sony's and so on and so forth, to the point where I much preferred shooting with it compared to when I used to shoot on a Nikon system. It definitely suits more your slow photographers and less so your spray and shoot sort of fast, a lot of shots per second photographers. One thing to note, because the size of the sensor, which is 102 megapixels, I think, the frames per second rate is quite a bit lower. So the camera shoots 5 frames per second maximum rate, I believe, and I haven't checked this, but I'd imagine that would go on for maybe a second to 3 max of continuous shooting, and then the camera would need a little break, and that's because the size of the files. And the raw files, I shoot RAW and JPEG. The raw files that it creates are over 200 megabytes each, and then even the JPEGs, when you change it to like normal size in the settings, they're about 15 megabytes. So really massive files, and your regular size sort of memory cards will fill up quite fast. But you might see that as a downfall of the camera, but really it kind of encourages you to shoot a bit more consciously, and a bit less spraying and a bit more sort of positioning and thinking about the shots that you're getting, which personally I appreciate, but I understand that a lot of photographers this sort of thing might not suit. So it's quite a particular camera. I do love the sensor though. I think I love the images that it creates, and I'm not a big fan of cropping, but once or twice when you did need to crop an image, when you crop it even substantially, you're still retaining this really sharp image. And as well, the image stabilization, on a few occasions I was shooting at about 1/10 shutter speed, and brilliant handheld, really no problems with it. Another thing worth mentioning is the size of the body. It's really not that big, so medium format camera, you begin thinking when you hear that, wow, it's going to be absolutely massive, big chunky thing to carry. But really it's very comparable to any of the full frame cameras from Nikon and Canon size wise. Really not that heavy either, and paired with any of the lenses that Fuji has to offer, I think that the weight shouldn't be any larger than, I'm guessing here, but it shouldn't be any larger than from any of the Canon or Nikon cameras that you'd be comparing this to. That I'd be comparing it to anyway, because that's what I know. Um, I mean, an obvious, I guess, downside of the camera is the autofocus for this live action sort of stuff that I was talking about. And again, the camera isn't made for it. You know, if you shoot that sort of stuff, you probably aren't looking for this camera. But personally, I found it quite manageable, and you know, I again prefer more sort of slower approach to shooting, so more setting up a shot and then waiting for targets to kind of waiting for things to come into the frame. And for that sort of thing, I think the autofocus works really well. And you know, so far I haven't had any tremendous issues with the autofocus. I haven't missed many shots, but you know, that might change. Obviously the Mark II is available at the moment, and that seems to be the more popular camera, but if you're looking at that, you know, you're almost doubling the price. That's why I went for the 100S. The camera is expensive, but then the lenses in the system are very dear as well. I mean, you know, I'd say you're looking at £1,000 minimum, even if you're buying secondhand for any of the lenses on offer in the system. But they're all great quality lenses, and here in the UK we have a Fujifilm has this try before you buy sort of scheme for lenses, where you can rent it out or loan it out even for free for 2 full days. So sort of you pick it up on one day, then you have 2 full days, then you drop it off to them or send it back on the day after, which is really, really amazing. And it's such a great service from Fujifilm. And you know, I haven't bought a single Fujifilm lens for this camera yet, just because of that service. I'm trying to, and you know, I'm able to pick out sort of the right lens, try things out, and then you know, commit to something, I guess, at a later date. I did buy a vintage lens for the camera, so I bought an adapter and I think an 80mm Mamiya lens. I haven't used it a ton, but you know, there is such a big community of people using vintage lenses on this system, so definitely worth mentioning, and I'll definitely look into that further. One thing obviously with the vintage lenses is that there isn't any sort of autofocus ability or anything like that. Saying that as well, I haven't really messed around with any of the film filters that you can do within the camera, sort of bake them into your JPEGs, but people seem to be really keen about that as well, so I'll definitely give that a look soon. I think in conclusion, the cameras really, really surprised me actually, and you know, it's very expensive. It's a very expensive camera, but you know, if you like a more slow approach to photography, and if you think that you'd appreciate the size of that sensor, if that wouldn't be an overkill for you. I mean, I say that, but it is an overkill for me, but it does create a particular sort of a look. So if you think you'd appreciate that, I would really recommend giving it a go, and you know, trying to get fit a like a cheap vintage lens on it as well with an adapter, and you really have a body then that you can make some really cool work with. So yeah, I'll leave this at that, but I'll definitely keep on using the camera, and hopefully I'll be able to update in the future about any further remarks about it. But yeah, so far so good. GFX 100S, not a disappointment, a big positive.